Hey everybody, I'm here with the Phrozen Mega 8K. So you guys know I always get excited whenever I get to test a new printer, especially one that brings the resolution. So this thing has a monstrous build plate, 15.1 inches I believe. You can see it's perforated, it has holes in it to mitigate and lessen the peel forces, which I think is a good idea. I know some people worry about holes in the build plate, but I don't at all. Makes a lot of sense, and hopefully that'll make it print better. Build plate is heavy. Due to the holes, it's not as heavy as it could be. Solid metal, of course. It's got two nice metal handles for easy holding, or you could also grip it from here once it's off the machine. I would use the handles. It's got a 4-screw leveling system. I don't know if this comes leveled from the factory. I'll have to double check that because I just opened it up, so I'm not sure. You can see the box, the machine itself is not, I think it's small for the size of the build plate. The machine envelope itself is small. I think it's a lot smaller than my Phrozen Transform, even though the build plate's a little bigger. The actual casing is a little smaller overall, so I don't know what they did. There's two fans in the back, power supply in the back, on-off switch in the back. There are handles on the side to help you lift it. I would advise for most people, even though I picked this one up by myself, I think for most people it should take two people to do it. In fact, that's why you didn't see my wife do a full unboxing. I was afraid she might die. Didn't think it was worth the risk. So two handles on the side. I like the way the doors work. Doors swing all the way open if you want them to, which I think is a really nice touch. You can see inside, it's got, as you would expect, a super heavy duty Z, right? It's solid as anything. It's got the build plate. It attaches with screws. It's got the handle. It's got a bed that it fits into, but one thing that's lacking here is the vat itself does not have legs. You know, when I have these big ones especially, I would like to see legs, little pegs underneath that fit in, that you can set this vat down without worrying about the FEP. So now you have to, if you set it down, you have to have a big microfiber cloth to set it down on, basically, which I do, so that's good. So I would have really Phrozen next time, you know, make something this big, put little legs under the vat. You did the handles on the vat, which is great, but I would like to see legs. And that vat, you saw how big that vat was. I bet it's going to be my guess is 2 liters of resins to fill it up, but we'll see. So it's got the user manual, warranty card, tools, funnel, some proctology exam gloves, and power supply. Good, it's the power supply I like, not the big chunky one, but smaller one that fits into the power strips easier. And scraper and scraper. So that's that. Let me see, let's check the USB stick while we're here, and let's hope it's branded. It's a familiar shape, and it is a SanDisk. So okay, so yeah, you know I like when guys give us makers give us a USB stick that we can trust. SanDisk is a trusted name, so that USB should be good. So that's it for the unboxing portion. What we'll do before we look at prints, I'm going to run the screen light test now and show you those results. So let's take a look at that together as we're looking. I'm not sure what the results are because I didn't do it yet. So I'll come back to talk about it and show you the prints in just a second of your time. Thanks for sticking with me. So I'm back after testing the Phrozen Mega 8K, and I want to say again, you guys saw in the beginning of the video, but this thing is humongous. That build plate is 15 inches. The build volume on this thing is incredible. 330 by 185 by 400. I mean, it is huge, but you saw that. So I want to print, you know, I know someone like Uncle Jesse's going to be printing masks, going to be printing cosplay stuff, but for me, since I'm a minis guy, you know, I want to do terrain that doesn't fit on any other resin printer on this printer. So even though I want to go and reprint some of my Kickstarters that I've done before in FDM, notably City of Tarok, which I love the models. They came out great in FDM. Let me show one or two, and they're going to look amazing in resin. But I just finished backing, and the campaign just ended pretty recently, Hagglethorn Hollow by Printable Scenery. So I wanted to print out one of their towers. So I picked a piece that would not fit on any other resin 3D printer I had, and then I decided to print it. It came in two parts. This part wouldn't fit on a Saturn, on my E10, on anything. It's just too big. It came out absolutely gorgeous. As nice as terrain comes out on FDM, on my Creality, my Ender, terrain does come out okay, but this resin piece is incredible. I mean, it's so nice to have the terrain in resin. I'm going to paint this one up, and maybe I'll put it in another video after I get done painting it with the tower on it. Now, let's talk about the printer. So, and this piece I hollowed, by the way. You can see I went and hollowed it. I used Prusa Slicer to hollow. So I went in, hollowed it, put a bunch of drain holes, and that way it's heavy because it's resin. So it's a little heavier than the FDM piece would be, but since it's hollow, it's not too bad. But the good thing about it being heavy is it's not going to get knocked over. Like when I get the tower on there and everything, it's going to be nice and sturdy. So I'm really happy to be printing resin terrain. Now, let's talk about the only thing, I won't say that I didn't like. So that huge build plate that I showed you, it is perforated. It has holes to reduce the suction and peel forces as it's coming up out of the resin. So because it's also flat on the top, I have a squeegee, silicone squeegee that I use to clean my vats. So on the top of that build plate, since it's flat and it has the holes, after the print is done, I just go like this, wipe off all the resin. So it's an extra, I don't want to exaggerate or play it down, either one, but it took me about 30 seconds, I guess, to squeegee all the excess resin off. Small price to pay to be able to print huge things. I know some people think when you have holes in the build plate, two things can happen that might be bad. One is that resin can get cured in the holes and like stuck. I mean, for me, all the prints I did while I was testing on the supports, where they were over the holes, when I popped the supports off, that took any resin out that was cured in the holes. So I don't think the holes getting cured resin in them is really going to happen. Doesn't sound right to me. So I don't think you have to worry about cleaning those holes. That's my take on it. I know other people may feel differently, but I don't think the holes pose any problem, to be honest. I think they do sell a totally flat build plate with no holes if you want that, but then again, you will be increasing your suction forces. So, and the other thing I did, and I'm going to be making a video on this, on how to support big, heavy objects on these big printers. And contrary to what everyone says about printing flat, you can see how I oriented this. I printed almost horizontal to the plate, which everyone says would be the worst orientation, and printed out no problem because I had enough supports on it. So I'll talk about how to support, I'm going to make another video on how to support large objects like this, large heavy objects, it's heavy, and have them come out great. So huge build volume. I think that little turtle monk I did, I think when for fun, I loaded them up on the build plate just without the support train, just cloned them a bunch of times. And even though he's kind of a big figure in terms of height, like 36 millimeters, I was able to fit, I think, 35 of them on the build plate. So I think if you're doing smaller, like D&D size, like the 28 millimeter scale, you could probably fit like 40, 45 figures at once. You can print a whole army, basically, in just a couple hours on this thing. It's crazy how big it is. I mean, it's really exciting to be able to. For me, though, I'm not going to print a bunch of minis at once. I'm using mine to do really, really gorgeous terrain. So I'm excited for that. So my overall impression of the printer, though, is that 8K detail, and we'll look again at the small figure I printed, the Turtle Monk, it really delivers on detail. That 8K at that size screen comes out to 43 micron resolution. So it's a bit better. It's a bit better than most of the smaller screens, actually, and only behind the Sonic Mini 4K, the Mars 3, and the EPAX, small 4K screen printer also. But more of those will be coming out. But the point is, at this size, to get a build plate, you saw a build plate 15 inches, and still get 43 micron resolution is insane. I mean, like you look at the piece, it's just, it's just flawless looking. I mean, exactly how they sculpt it, that's what I got. So I'm really excited to see 8K at this size. I mean, it's an amazing printer. Now, obviously you saw the unboxing, you saw me sitting in front of it, you obviously need space to use it. It's big. It's also heavy. Duh, I mean, it's a big printer, what do you expect? You need to be set up to use it because, again, the build plate is huge. Your cleaning area needs to be big enough. When you take off big prints, you know, my normal cleaning jars, of course, something like this can't fit in, and the plate can do even, you know, bigger than this. So you need to have a big enough vat, tub, plastic, or whatever you use to clean. It needs to be big enough to accommodate these big pieces, obviously. So the hassle of a huge printer like this, and I don't really call it a hassle, you just have to make sure you're equipped to deal with the prints when they come off. You know, you have enough space and you can keep everything clean. That massive build plate, like I said, I squeegee all the extra resin off, but here's one little maybe downside of those holes. So when I squeegee the resin off, some of it goes into those holes, so when you're carrying the plate, a drop or two of resin could fall out. So, you know, in my cleaning space, when I pull it out, I go right over to paper towels anyway, so it's not a big deal. But you just have to be prepared that it's a little more cleanup, I guess. But again, with a printer that size, I guess you should expect a little cleanup would be, you know, not quite as easy. Light source test. Light source was great. For a printer that size, to have the light that balanced and even, I was thrilled with that. I mean, I love the printer. And I know for a lot of hobbyists, it's going to be out of the price range, so totally understand that. But for people who want to do their terrain in resin and want to be able to do some of these bigger pieces, Hagglethorne Hollow, City of Tarok, maybe stuff from like Danny's Kickstarter, you know, there's a lot of big stuff you can print on this printer. Again, that build plate, you saw the volume, and it's got 400 in the Z. 400. I mean, humongous. Right, this doesn't even come close Z-wise. The Z max height is like this, right? I just went for stuff that couldn't fit on my Saturn or E10, you know, just because of width, right? So I don't know, that, you know, there's not that much to say about the machine. It's solidly constructed, as far as I can tell. Printed great. I think it's well designed. You know, do I wish somehow the build plate was perforated and sloped? I don't know if how hard that would be to do, but you know, it's like I said, it's a minor gripe, because with just any kind of, I guess you could use even these things which I tell them to throw out. I guess you could wipe resin off with this, but a squeegee works better. So you get silicone squeegee, and they make big ones. I have a much bigger one that I use also to get that resin off the top of the build plate. Other than that, you know, the worst thing about a big printer, I guess, if you fail, you have a really huge vat to clean, which is a hassle. I think when I poured my resin, I think it took a full bottle and half a bottle to get to the right level. So, you know, if you print big stuff, you go through resin a lot quicker, of course, but you get to print big stuff, so I guess it's okay. So anyway, as I use it more, I'll be posting pictures on Facebook groups and stuff. If I do run into any issues using it, you know, I'll update my review or anything, but so far it's been amazing. It's, you know, it's what you hope for in a big printer. What you want for a big printer is be able to print big stuff successfully, right? So this lets you do it. So again, this is for people who want to, if you're in my end of the hobby, which is miniatures, this is for, you know, doing big dragons quickly, for doing these big terrain pieces that either you couldn't do or you had to do FDM. And I know some people who are into resin, like, I don't even want to use my FDM printers anymore, to be honest. So now to have a printer big enough to actually handle some of these bigger terrain pieces really makes me happy, because honestly, I know some people still like their FDM. I don't like my FDM anymore. I don't even want to use it. So the bigger the printers get for me, the better. You know, so I can do bigger and bigger terrain in resin. So that's it. So I hope you like the review. Please like, please subscribe. I have tons of other reviews. I've got a bunch more resin reviews that'll be coming soon, testing some cool resins. And that's it. If you want to support the channel, there's a Patreon. Money from the Patreon goes to buy printers and resins to test. And also you can support the channel and get some good stuff if you back any of our Kickstarters, which are linked in the description. Other than that, hope to see you on the Facebook forums, and happy 3D printing.